Hey, the Scott Hamilton Show on a Sunday, the Sunday after week five of the college football season. Got a few thoughts on this. I'm actually at the gym right now. What you do on Sunday, you get up, you watch Ryder Cup, you go to church, go to the gym, then you come back and get ready for NFL. So you stick to your routine. Wanted to make sure I got some thoughts through. I'll have my top 25 rankings out later today. You can find that on FanStream Sports. Just go to the blog section. And I hope you like the theme for this week. Last week, I had the Taylor Swift edition of my top 25 rankings. Today, I've got something a little special planned. But let's get through some highlights from week 5 and just get a few quick thoughts. And we'll break it down further on Monday. I've got a couple of guests lined up for Monday and Tuesday to take a look back at everything that happened in week 5 of college football. First of all, Southern Cal. If I'm Southern Cal, I need to be worried. We talk about the Trojans being a playoff contender, talk about the Trojans winning the Pac-12 possibly in its last year of existence before going to the Big Ten. I ain't buying it. 48-41, they beat Colorado. Colorado put up 564 total yards. It's more of the same for Southern Cal, more of the same for Lincoln Riley. He can't be trusted as a head coach because he's only professional on one side of the football. They still have Notre Dame coming up. They've got Arizona this week. Then they're at Notre Dame. They have Utah and then Washington on November 4th. And then they go to Oregon. So you're telling me you have to win a shootout each and every week. You got to score 50 to win each and every week. I don't want to live like that if I'm a coach. Caleb Williams, though, when you got him a quarterback, it gives you a shot. Reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and there's no reason to think that he won't repeat as the Heisman Trophy winner. His number's actually better now than at this point last year. He had 6 touchdowns against Colorado, but Southern Cal, I'm not trusting Southern Cal. I actually like Washington out of the Pac-12 right now. I think Washington has so much more upside completely as a team than Southern Cal. We'll explore this later in the week. Ole Miss beating LSU. 55-49, just a wild game. A few thoughts. First of all, 1,343 total yards in this game. That's absolutely incredible. 317 yards rushing by Ole Miss. And people think about Lane Kiffin and they think he's this offensive guru who just wants to sling the football everywhere, but that's not the case. A lot of his offensive principles are rooted in the Art Briles offense. Think of what you will about Art Briles, but he was an offensive innovator. But there was always a power run component to his scheme. And Lane Kiffin emulates quite a bit of that. They want to run first, pass second. So 317 yards rushing for Ole Miss. That's incredible. This is Lane Kiffin's signature win. I mean, think about it. We talk about Lane Kiffin. He's constantly creating headlines. He's constantly in the news. He's a media darling. I love the guy. I think he's great. I think he's great for football. He's wonderful for the Southeastern Conference, and he's perfect for a school like Ole Miss that is constantly having to fight for attention. But what has he ever really done to hang his hat on? Has he ever gotten that marquee win, that big victory? We keep waiting for him to beat Nick Saban, trolling Nick Saban, always to fall flat on his face. This is a big-time win. That's a pretty good LSU team. We'll talk about them in a moment. Number 13 in the country before the new rankings come out today. But this is something that he can really hang his visor on and say, yeah, we did that. We beat LSU. We beat a good LSU team, and we did it because we were able to put up points. We did it because we were able to get stops, and we were able to perform in special teams. This is a complete victory. Even though they gave up 49 points, make of that what you will, it's still a complete victory for Lane Kiffin. And as far as LSU, I thought the Florida State win or loss to open up the season, I really thought that was more of a statement about how good Florida State is, how far it's come under Mike Norvell, than an indictment of LSU. But I'm starting to pivot a little bit on that. I think it's more of an indictment now than I thought. That LSU is not a complete team, that Brian Kelly doesn't have them playoff ready. They're definitely not playoff contender for sure. The SEC West, who's going to win this? It's not going to be LSU. Probably won't be Ole Miss. Alabama by default. I mean, do we see A&M? A&M and Alabama this week, by the way. It's just something to think about, something we'll explore later in the week. Georgia got a win over Auburn. Excellent game. Excellent game. Auburn played its rear end off. But if I'm the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm also concerned because that run defense isn't elite. Auburn hung in there with Georgia, lost by 1 score, despite going 11 of 20 with an interception and 88 yards passing as a team. However, able to put up 219 yards rushing, 5.1 yards a carry. That ain't an elite rushing defense. That's not an elite rushing defense whatsoever. And the Georgia Bulldogs need to thank their lucky stars that they're playing Kentucky this week in Athens, not in Lexington. And we'll expand on UK in a moment because I really think Kentucky can beat them, especially if that game are not being played between the hedges. By the way, Brock Bowers, 8 receptions, 159 yards, had that 40-yard touchdown that ended up being the game winner. Best player in college football. I'm just going to say that. Best player in college football. Just a marvelous game, matchup nightmare. And what is increasingly becoming a positionless sport. You're either a lineman or you're not. On defense, you're either a lineman or you're not. It's all positionless. You have to be so multifaceted. Brock Bowers is a perfect example of that. Speaking of Kentucky, Kentucky now 6-0, beat Florida 33-14. Third straight win over the Florida Gators after going from 1986 to 2017 without beating Florida. They've now won 4 of their last 6 against the Gators. Ray Davis, running back for the University of Kentucky, 280 yards on 26 carries, 3 touchdowns. He also had a 9-yard pass reception. Kentucky is physical. Kentucky's got a capable quarterback in Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State. I'm not calling the upset, but I'm tiptoeing that way with each passing day, especially after watching Georgia's run defense against Auburn. If I'm Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats, I am chomping at the bit to get this game underway. I really, really am. Again, something we're going to explore later in the week. Missouri remains undefeated, beat Vanderbilt 5-0. So the only 3 undefeated teams in the Southeastern Conference are all in the East, and it's Georgia, Kentucky, and Missouri. What a world. What a world. James Madison also undefeated. James Madison's 5-0. Ineligible for the postseason. They beat South Alabama, pretty good South Alabama team, 31-23, but cannot compete for the Sun Belt title or bowl eligibility because they're doing that transitioning from the FCS to the FBS where you're in this purgatory while you make the transition and you fix your rosters. So, yeah, that kind of stinks. I would like to see them get a waiver because I think they can actually win the Sun Belt. Probably the best game of the day, and that's really saying something. There were some good games on Saturday. Notre Dame beating Duke 21-14. Just another fist fight for the Irish 1 week after losing that close game to Ohio State in South Bend. They go to Durham. Duke game from the get-go. College game days there. The atmosphere is crazy. They got something now called the Wade Wackos, Wallace Wade Stadium. And it's a counterpart to the Cameron Crazies, the basketball fan base and all that. It was a really cool environment. 2 quick takeaways from that, or more. I might have a couple more. Duke is for real. What Mike Elko's building there is sustainable, and it's only going to grow. He's got the blueprint. It's part of it's that Dave Clawson blueprint. He and Dave Clawson worked together for so long. Dave Clawson, coach of Wake Forest. And he learned at his stop. He was at Notre Dame for 1 year. After that, as defensive coordinator, he then worked for Jimbo at A&M for a few years before getting this job at Duke. He understands the mentality of being in a situation like that. Again, having been at Wake Forest as the defensive coordinator of making a small non-football school, making the most of the resources you have, and how to recruit, the type of player you can get, how to develop players. That's probably the most important thing, develop players. I love what Mike Elko's doing. Sam Hartman steps up, wins the game with a scramble at the end. That's Sam Hartman being Sam Hartman, 6th-year senior, just real leader, gritty guy. Wake Forest transfer. Also, Riley Leonard, and that's the seat squeaking like crazy. Well, Riley Leonard, the quarterback of the Duke Blue Devils, just what a competitor. What a competitor. We saw it in the opening win against Clemson. We saw it more in this loss to Notre Dame. I'm curious to find out to what extent he's injured. He got injured on the final play that Duke had for the game. Looked like an ankle injury. Looked pretty significant, but that's a knee-jerk reaction on my part. What was cool, though, was Sam Hartman waiting around to check on him. And there was this wonderful shot of Sam Hartman waiting while Riley Leonard is in the tent on the sideline. Game's over now. Teams are going to the locker rooms. Fans are leaving the stands. And there's Sam Hartman, full uniform, waiting on Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard comes out of the tent on crutches. Sam goes over, gives him a little hug, and they go about their ways. But he wanted to wish him well. And obviously he knew him from his time at Wake Forest, where they had competed annually. And it's such an incestuous sport anyhow, especially for quarterbacks. They're going to these camps and they're training together and doing this, that, and the other. I just thought that was really a neat moment. One other thing to note here before we wrap it up, and I go get my big fat rear end on the elliptical for a while. Iowa beat Michigan State 26-16. So Iowa eclipsed the 25-point mark, which it needed. Remember, it has to average 25 points a game for offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz to keep his job. They went one over to that. The problem is they were shut out last week at Penn State. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. They had 41 the week before that, I think, against Western Michigan. I think they're still short of the average. I'll do the numbers, but it's a nice little side story. Right now, thinking about the Ryder Cup, woke up, thought it was just going to be a runaway. Europe had such a big lead, but the Americans were game. So good on the American team for showing a strong effort on Sunday in the singles matches, as we usually do. Usually strong in the singles matches. Good on Europe, though, for getting it done. Ryder Cup, other than college football, the best thing ever invented, man. It is a fantastic event. It's going to be a long 2 years, but I can't wait for the next one. Don't want to wish my life away, but I can't wait for the next one. I've got some stuff to do. Again, I'm going to have my top 25 out later in the day. You can get it at FanStream Sports. Just go under the blog section on the main page. Also on my page, you can listen to this on Spotify, anywhere you can get a podcast. Don't forget about the YouTube channel. If you don't have the mobile app, get the FanStream Sports mobile app. It's good for both Android and iPhone. And, of course, as always, go to the FanStream Sports Facebook page. Give it a like, leave a comment, shoot a message, whatever. And, of course, follow me on Twitter at ScottX, at ScottH4456. The DMs are open. Comments, suggestions, complaints, whatever you got on your mind, shoot it to me. Let's get some dialogue going. But I got to get my big butt in shape. Be sure to check out that top 25 later. Until next time, be safe.